Famous walked into the apartment, his face tense as he looked at Smokey and Reese. Yo, the blocks are way too quiet out there. It feels like a setup. I'm gonna take some of the KTA guys and do a sweep around the perimeter. We need to make sure none of the ops are creeping through the back alleys. Smokey nodded, tapping his knuckles against the table. Do that. Take Trey with you. Check the blind spots by the dumpsters and the side gates. Famous checked his piece, gave a sharp nod, and headed back down the concrete stairs. He gathered a handful of the KTA soldiers standing in the courtyard, splitting them up to lock down the entrances. Keep your eyes peeled, Famous ordered, his voice a low whisper against the night air. White Stones is mad about earlier, and Redfield has been too quiet. Nobody enters this complex unless they KTA. Upstairs, the heavy silence grew thicker. Suddenly, the shadows near the western edge of the KTA complex shifted. Through the darkness, Damien and Dion from Redfield were creeping up the back stairwell, suppressed pistols drawn, aiming to slip right into the KTA stash house while everyone's attention was on the front gates. They thought they were being ghosts. But they didn't account for Reese. Reese was already standing at the top of the dark stairwell, completely melted into the shadows. He had a cigarette dangling unlit from his lips, his eyes cold and locked onto Damien's forehead. He didn't panic. He didn't call out. He just took absolute control of the situation. Clack! The sound of Reese racking his slide echoed sharply in the narrow concrete stairwell. Damien stopped dead in his tracks, his heart dropping into his stomach. Step up one more foot, Reese's voice cut through the dark like ice, and I'll paint these project walls with whatever brains you got left. Dion tried to quickly raise his weapon, but Reese was faster. Bang! Reese fired a single, deafening shot that caught Dion squarely in the shoulder, sending him tumbling backward down the concrete steps, his gun clattering to the floor. Before Damien could even react to the blast, Reese stepped out of the shadows, the barrel of his Glock pressed directly against Damien's temple. Drop it, Reese commanded, his tone completely flat, devoid of any fear. Now. Damien's hands shook as he let his pistol hit the floor. The chaos of the gunshot immediately set the block on fire. Downstairs, Famous and Trey heard the blast. Upstairs. Go, go, Famous shouted, leading the KTA soldiers back toward the building to cut off any escape routes. Within seconds, Famous and his guys had the entire stairwell surrounded, trapping Damien and a bleeding Dion. Smokey and Sosa rushed out of the apartment, weapons drawn, looking down at the captured Redfield hitters. Look what we caught creeping in the dark, Reese said smoothly, not taking his eyes off Damien. He looked over at Smokey. Redfield thought they were slick. They tried to backdoor us while we were securing the front. Smokey walked up, looking at Damien, then down at Dion groaning on the floor. Kevin sent you, didn't he? Smokey asked, his voice deadly quiet. Damien just glared, staying silent, but his face told the whole story. Right at that moment, the headlights of a beat-up SUV cut through the dark courtyard. The doors slammed open, and Pooh bounced out, having heard the commotion all the way from Bluefield. He took one look at the bleeding Redfield member and the standoff on the stairs, and a wild, manic grin spread across his face. Oh, it's up now, Pooh yelled, packing back and forth at the bottom of the stairs, clutching his weapon. Redfield tried to slide. Smokey, step back. Let me finish these fools right here in the dirt. Let's send a message back to Kevin. Hold on, Pooh, Sosa shouted, stepping between Pooh and the stairs. We control the narrative here. Reese got this handled. Reese kept his gun pressed to Damien's head, entirely unmoved by Pooh's shouting. He looked at Smokey, waiting for the word. Say the word, big bro. We can end it right here, or we can use them to make Kevin pay a tax for crossing the line. The entire KTA block was on a knife's edge. The laid-back money-making days were officially gone. The war for the city had just landed on their doorstep. With Swag, Smoke, and Louie back in the building, the energy in the KTA apartment was electric. Bags of out-of-town money were getting dropped on the table, but outside, the streets were still whispering. The threat from Redfield and White Stones hadn't vanished. It was just resetting. Smokey and Sosa were at the kitchen counter, breaking down the new supply with the older brothers, leaving the front lines to the two men who had just secured the block. "Famous Reese," Smokey called out over the noise of the money counters. "Y'all handle the security perimeter. You proved tonight you got the eyes for it. Take charge of the block until morning." Famous locked eyes with Reese and nodded. "Say less. We got the streets on lock." # locking down KTA block. Famous didn't waste a second. He stepped out onto the balcony, looking down at the KTA soldiers lingering in the courtyard. The adrenaline from the Redfield situation was still pumping through the younger runners, and Famous knew that loose energy could get them killed. "Yo, gather round right now," Famous shouted down, his voice cutting through the humid night air. The KTA crew quickly huddled at the base of the stairs. Famous walked down, his demeanor completely changed. He was in full general mode. "Listen up," Famous barked. "Redfield just tried to play us and White Stones is still mad about the intersection. The laid-back days are over. Trey, I want you and 4 guys on the north gate. Nobody stands on the corner clutching their phones. You keep your eyes on the traffic. If a car slows down, you flash the light. If it don't move, you handle it." Trey nodded, pulling his hood up. "I'm on it, Famous." "The rest of y'all split up between the alleyways and the roof," Famous ordered. "We are a fortress tonight. If Kevin or Big Dot want to try their luck again, they're gonna have to fight through a wall of lead." The soldiers dispersed instantly, moving with a new sense of discipline. Famous had the ground game completely organized. # Reese's moving chess pieces. While Famous locked down the physical block, Reese was handling the strategic defense. He stayed up on the second-floor landing, his Glock resting loosely in his hand, his eyes scanning the perimeter like a hawk. He wasn't just waiting for an attack, he was anticipating where it would come from. His phone buzzed. It was Curtis from Bluefield. "Yo, Reese," Curtis said, his voice low over the receiver. "We heard the shots earlier. Pooh just got back to our block hyping everybody up. What's the play? Jackson is ready to roll out if y'all need backup." "Tell Jackson to hold his positions at Bluefield," Reese commanded smoothly, completely taking charge of the Alliance's next move. "Kevin from Redfield is smart. He sent Damien as a distraction. For all we know, Mitch or Dion could be circling your blocks right now trying to catch you slipping while Pooh is running his mouth." "Good looking out," Curtis admitted on the other end. "What do you need from us?" "Keep Pooh on a leash for the next 2 hours," Reese instructed coldly. "But have your drivers ready. If White Stones tries to link up with Redfield tonight to double-team us, we're gonna need Bluefield to hit them from the flank. I'm setting up a perimeter right now. If anything crosses the line, I'll hit your line." "Copy that. Bluefield is on standby. Standard procedures," Curtis said before hanging up. # The silent watch. By 3:00 a.m., the city was dead silent, but the chaos was just resting. Famous walked up the stairs, joining Reese on the landing. He handed Reese a cold drink, looking out over the perfectly secured KTA courtyard. Not a single soul was moving without Famous knowing about it. "Ground is secure," Famous said, leaning against the concrete railing. "Trey's got the gates locked. Nobody's sneaking up on us tonight." Reese took a sip, his eyes never stopping their slow scan of the dark streets leading toward White Stones. "Good, because Big Dot and Kevin aren't just gonna take tonight's embarrassment lying down. They know Swag, Smoke, and Louie are back now. They know the family is whole." "Let 'em come," Famous said, a confident, dangerous smile creeping onto his face as he patted the strap across his chest. "We got the block, we got the brothers, and we got the power. As long as you and me are holding down this front door, KTA ain't never folding." In the dark down the street, the faint headlights of a lone car flickered on, watching the KTA apartments from a distance. The war was coming, but under Famous and Reese's command, KTA Block was completely ready for it. The clock struck 4:00 a.m., the bleakest, coldest hour of the night. Famous and Reese had successfully locked down the fort, but the exhaustion of holding a block on high alert was starting to wear on them. Inside the main KTA apartment, the door swung open. Swag ***, Sosa ***, and Trey stepped out onto the landing, fresh, completely alert and locked in. The out-of-town money was secured, the strategy was set, and it was time for the next shift of the family to take the reins. "Go get some rest, y'all did your part," Sosa said, stepping past Famous and patting his shoulder. "Me, Swag, and Trey got the block from here." Reese lowered his weapon, nodding smoothly as he passed the torch. "Keep your eyes on the West Ridge. Redfield is licking their wounds, but Kevin isn't the type to sleep on a loss." "Let him wake up then," Swag said, a confident, icy grin on his face. He was rocking a heavy designer jacket over a tactical vest, looking every bit like the high-rolling, dangerous brother he was. "We didn't bring all this bag and all this iron back to the city just to hide in an apartment. It's time to show these blocks who runs the economy." # Swag's money moves. With Swag in charge of the immediate operation, the strategy shifted from defensive lockdown to aggressive financial dominance. He wasn't just trying to protect the KTA apartments. He wanted to choke out the competition. "Trey, get the runners back on the line," Swag ordered, leaning over the balcony and pointing toward the corners. "The sun is gonna be up in a couple of hours. I want our product flooded on every single avenue connecting us to Bluefield. We are dropping the price by $5 a pop. We have enough money from out of town to take a hit on the profit if it means we completely bleed White Stones and Redfield dry." Trey's eyes lit up. He loved the hustle. "Say less, Swag. If we drop the price like that, every buyer from the north to the west side is gonna be sprinting to KTA Block before breakfast." "Exactly," Sosa chimed in, stepping up beside them. "And while they're sprinting here, their blocks go broke. We starve them out." Trey rushed downstairs, his energy infectious as he began remobilizing the KTA soldiers, setting up the early morning shifts and passing out the fresh, high-grade packs that Swag, Smoke, and Louie had brought back. # Sosa enforces the line. While Trey managed the runners and Swag orchestrated the money, Sosa took control of the heavy artillery. He knew that dropping the prices was an open declaration of war, and somebody was going to try to rob a runner before the morning was over. Sosa walked the perimeter of the KTA complex himself, a heavy rifle slung over his shoulder under a long trench coat. He checked in on the lookouts Famous had set up, tightening the screws. His phone buzzed. It was *J Money* from White Stones calling his burner. News traveled fast in the trenches. "Yo, Sosa," J Money's voice came through, sounding stressed and angry. "Word on the street is your people are dropping the ticket on the center strip. You're messing with the White Stones money. Big Dot is losing his mind over here." Sosa didn't even slow his stride as he walked the dark alleyway. "Tell Big Dot to lose his mind then," Sosa said, his voice completely deadpan. "My brothers are back. The family is whole. If y'all can't compete with KTA prices, pack up your blocks and move out of the city. The strip belongs to us and Bluefield now." "You acting real bold for a N******A who almost got backdoored by Redfield tonight," J Money snapped. "Keyword is almost asterisk," Sosa replied coldly. "Redfield tried it and they got a man leaking in the hospital right now. If White Stones wants to try it, make sure you bring more men than Kevin did. Don't call this phone again unless it's to surrender your blocks." Sosa hung up the phone, completely unfazed, and looked up at the balcony where Swag was watching the streets. The sunrise stand. As the first light of dawn broke over the city, the chaos of the hood began to simmer. Because of Swag's aggressive price cut, the KTA courtyard was suddenly buzzing with buyers. Money was flowing into the complex at a ridiculous rate, and Trey was downstairs counting the hand-to-hand transactions with a grin on his face. But with money came the vultures. A block away, a car from the Redfield Apartments rolled up to the corner, slowing down. Inside, Mitch and Damien his shoulder heavily bandaged from Reese's bullet, watched the absolute frenzy of business KTA was doing. Trey noticed the car immediately. He didn't panic. He just slowly reached into his waistband, stepped off the curb, and stood right in the middle of the street, blocking their view. He stared directly through the windshield of the Redfield car, tapping his fingers against the handle of his weapon. Up on the roof, Sosa racked his rifle, aiming it straight down at the driver's side window of Mitch's car. On the second-floor balcony, Swag stood tall, flashing a stack of hundreds at them with a mocking laugh, entirely untouchable. Under the leadership of Swag, Sosa, and Trey, KTA hadn't just survived the night, they had completely taken over the morning. Mitch knew they were outmatched, outgunned, and out-hustled. He slammed his foot on the gas, peeling away from KTA block. "Yeah, keep running," Trey shouted after them, laughing as he pocketed another wad of cash. The sun was fully up now. KTA was getting rich, the blocks were secured, and the family was completely in pocket.